right on board with Joey Haynes right here, our current leader. It's all going to unfold right in front of them.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's like a video game. Well, I mean, I say that, but you know what I mean. It just zipping past cars. It's like he's playing some arcade game there and just blasting past them one after another as they all wreck around him.
I mentioned how aggressive Hovdal was through the GTO traffic on the lap before, and here he's going to try to go around the outside, which he's already in the dirty air, and just barely hangs on to it. Bill with another poor exit out of turn one. You got to think the over-under has got to be coming at some point, but no. Neil Kemp's going to try the long way around turn two. What a battle here for the sixth place position. Neil Kemp has half the car over Bill Tyler, but they're going to take it side by side into the short break zone. This could be disaster right here, but Bill Tyler thankfully backs out of it.
Will he get both of these spots, or will it be Kimo or Gernot through the first corner, out of that one, and now it's going to be 3 wide as they come up to the next braking zone.
Watch Leno right here. He's going to have the best draft off the back of Kimo, but Gernot's going to take it wide around the outside. He's going to have great traction coming off of this corner.
Who's going to get the exit? That's going to be so critical. Oh, no, banging wheels.
We're almost to that point. Antonio Alvarez is 5 seconds back, so it's only going to be 4 cars. But my goodness, it's a 4-car fight now for the 7th position.
Oh no, this is too wide through the jam. This doesn't work well. Fabian Jungbluth is going to have to take a course cut. That's going to be a slowdown penalty. Aitor Sintes Galindo keeps on rocking. That's going to be Xavier Sanchez and Ross Banfield now taking it too wide on Aitor Sintes Galindo. He doesn't have a time to breathe out there.
Nobody has a time to breathe. Sintes Galindo fighting off the battle from Jungbluth. Now he's under pressure from Banfield. Xavier Sanchez looking on from the back, and Jungbluth is now caught up because of these guys going too wide. Everyone's a little slower right now. They've lost a full 1.5 seconds to Antonio Alvarez. Now it's almost going to be 3 wide into the braking zone for the next right-hander. And they make a little contact.
Just a little bit of contact puts 2 wheels of Banfield out on the dirt, and the defense of Aitor Sintes Galindo. Write this down. This is one for the ages, folks. He is still in that 7th position.
In the last few years, Real Motorsports have become more and more aware of the value and fun that sim racing provides. And Roush Performance is among those who have grabbed hold of the opportunities it offers. So today, we'll get to have a little fun with their friends and associates as we get ready to watch the Roush Performance Esports sunset at Sebring. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sebring is often considered one of the most grueling tests for the sturdiness of your machine. Let's head to our track guide to learn more as to why. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing. This is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course. Well, Joey, I'm glad that we get to do this awesome event, but at a place like Sebring, the drivers are sure going to be tested.
Well, Sebring, you have to respect the bumps out here. That is the tagline of the racetrack, and we're going to see it with all of these GT3 cars on the racetrack. 17 turns, a little over 3.5 miles in length, and if you have watched any sort of endurance sports car racing here in North America, you are very familiar with Sebring, and going to have to watch out for all of these cars taking turn 1 for the first time because it is very, very wide, but it narrows up by the time you get to turns 3, 4, and 5, and always a big passing opportunity. Turn 7, the hairpin down there, and don't forget about the most famous turn here at Sebring, Sunset Bend, turn 17. Huge amounts of bumps out there, and it's got to be tricky for these cars to navigate it lap after lap. We're going to see who can overstep it and who can get it hooked up through that final turn.
That's certainly going to be a lot of fun out there, but we do have a special guest with us. It is the voice of Roush. We've got Trevor Wright here to tell us a little bit about what helped make this happen. Trevor, what's some of the goodies that we've got here?
Yeah, good evening, guys. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, we got some I'm sure as a sim racer you are, VRS, which is a premium sim racing hardware manufacturer supporting many of the top tier teams and leagues worldwide. You have to experience the VRS difference with our hardware, software, telemetry, setups, and training. But as you guys know, in the past, we've had Continental Tire with us, always great supporters and sponsors of all of our events. As you guys know, we really put a lot of pressure on those tires, figuratively and literally, on our track packs. But also a huge shout out to RoushParts.com. So if you're looking to add performance to your vehicle, you can head over to RoushParts.com and find a dealer near you.
Thanks for that. We'll be talking to Travis a little bit more throughout this race, of course. And speaking of the race itself, let's go over the race details for this event. It is going to be 2 races, actually, a 15-minute sprint and a 30-minute feature. And they'll have the top 10 finishing order for that sprint be inverted for the grid for the feature. Now, they have a spare car in each of the races to help everybody get a chance to see the finish because, well, this is for fun. And it's an open setup series. Now, we'll have to talk about that a little bit more later because that's going to be fascinating to see who opts for what approach to this very technical track. And then we have prizes not just for the winners of each race, but also for whoever scores the most points between the races. So a combination of the two will net you even more out there. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we have qualifying as well out there. And as I was talking about, Joey, I'm very curious to see what this open setup leads to, because this is a track with a lot of long straights, but also a lot of corners.
Yeah, well, and you got to get those shocks dialed in here at Sebring. You got some faster corners, but it really is all about riding over the bumps and getting the mechanical grip that you need out of the cars. And really, if you ask me, you got to kind of pay attention to the trends that go on here in the simulator in iRacing. And right now, from what I see the McLarens up at the front, which isn't usually a GT3 car that I would expect to see at the top of the timesheet here.
Indeed. Let's take a look at what's going on in the qualifying. They've got 10 laps to try and set their quickest time within 15 minutes. After those 15 minutes are over, they cannot finish hot laps, so it's imperative that they manage to get a clean one in here relatively quickly. Teddy Lowendick, someone we've seen on the channel many times here on GSRC, currently the quickest. I did see him get pretty fast towards the end of practice, but really the car has come alive as time has gone on for him.
Well, and he is in an Audi out there. I do see a couple other Audis, but he is by far the fastest one, currently a 2-minute .1 on the timesheet. Next up is Carter Kundinger, another familiar face in that provisionally 2 spot right now, 2-minute .4. And what I'm seeing, Joe, is if you're in the 2 minutes, you're one of these fast guys, but are we going to see a 1:59 here in qualifying?
Yeah, top 6 are under 2:01 right now. So Martin Wallace about 0.8 of a second behind Ted, and still has plenty of laps to try and go that little bit quicker. But as we watch Teddy work his way towards the end of the lap, we've switched over instead here to, I believe this is Martin Wallace actually here that we've got on screen in the number 11 coming out of the final turn. And it doesn't look like he's going to go quicker on this one. In fact, no, he was about half a second off of his best time. He'll have to try and come back around. It does look like the 42 of Nikhil Kopkar is actually looking like he might improve by nearly a second here.
Well, I know that Nikhil is a very fast racer, and he tends to not put in a lot of practice time. So I think that his learning curve is very steep, and you're seeing it right now, Joe. He is yet to reach his maximum pace.
All right, still showing about 7 to 8 quicker than his best lap. This is going to push him up towards the front row potentially as he comes off the final turn. And it's a 2 flat 3. That is indeed good enough for the front row. Second place for Kopkar. The other one that I'd love to get the cameras on is Jack Roush Jr. Looks like he's on an out lap. Now, Joey, is there any special rules about you have to give way to the boss, or is it still every man for himself?
Well, I know that Trevor Wright can tell you that Jack is a very fierce competitor out there. He feels that if you raced him that way, it wouldn't be fair for him. And tell you the truth, he's out there supporting American Wheelman right now, which is a racing team that has gone out and done some IMSA racing and has some pretty big plans here in the future. And here we're getting this onboard camera shot from Jack Roush Jr. Now, Trevor, I know that you know this basement a little bit, and how do you think Jack is feeling on track right now?
You know, Jack has it in his blood. Obviously, with the last name Roush and the company to be where it is today, you got to know a little something about racing. I think one thing about Jack is I can never read him. I'm sure I've seen him nervous. I'm sure I've seen him exciting. But one thing, he keeps that poker face. But one thing I do know is he's prepared for whatever it takes to run a good race. So I'm excited to see Jack out here.
And right now, he's on a flyer. He's looking like he's probably about even with his best time. He sits in 17th, so he's got some work to do in that Lambo. We'll see how he winds up. About halfway through the lap right now into one of the trickier braking zones down here into Tower. Just glancing that curb enough, but it looks like he's still good. In fact, now he's 2/10 up here, Joey, so he is going a little bit quicker.
And I know that Jack has been putting more time in the simulator, specifically here at Sebring. He's been working with VRS and one of the coaches, so I think we're starting to see that pay off a little bit. He's always been involved in sim racing, but he's starting to put in the practice time. And here, let's see here, doing a 2-minute .3, but like you said, looking a little bit faster here this lap.
Still about 1 to 2 tenths quicker than he was before. He has a 2:03.621 as he rounds through Sunset Bend. And just off the corner, that looked good to me, right up to the wall. This should be a clean one as long as he didn't touch the grass when we weren't looking. And indeed, it is a 2:02.9. So that will jump him up into 16th, one position. Oh, no, he gets shuffled back down one more as somebody up in front of him. It also improves. That might have been Alfonso in the number 6 machine.
Well, and it's just kind of the nature of this qualifying. It's one of the reasons why we set this up is that don't get messed about with anybody else out there on track. Turn your laps, and it kind of ends up like that F1 style where it's just elimination at the end.
Absolutely worth trying to push that last little bit all the way to the final moments here as we come down into the hairpin. This is still Jack Roush that we see on the screen. This one hovering about 2 tenths over now, unfortunately. So not sure if he's going to be able to go faster. Chris Wolfson in front of him might knock about half a second off of his lap. So the 412 might be looking to gain a number of positions on this lap. as we continue to watch Jack down through Collier, one of the more narrow parts of the circuit, heading back into tower once again. Wolfson just crossed, a 2:01.8, but he only gets up to 15th with it.
And the other thing to note about Jack here is that I know that he's been new and hot with his new go-kart. And one of the things that I'm waiting to see, Joe, is I know that you're new to this Roush esports stuff, but his son, JP, or I should say one of his sons, JP, is very involved here on iRacing. And I think it's only a matter of time until he gets his own rig, because he has been doing a ton of go-kart racing himself.
So are you telling me he has to share the rig with Dad? Because
yeah.
Oh boy.
And let me tell you, we were down in Daytona just a couple weeks ago for the Rolex 24, and Jack and JP were down there. VRS was down there. It was a great time. We had 4 rigs set up at Daytona. And JP was just chomping at the bit to get into those rigs whenever he could. All he wanted to do was go out there and turn laps.
I do not envy him. I never had that situation where I had to share it. I'd already moved out by the time I got that serious with sim racing. But by the way, I don't know if our viewers noticed, Ted Lowendick improved his fastest lap. He's now nearly 2/10 ahead of Paul Gibson. Teddy is looking on fire today. We've got less than a minute left to go. So hopefully you're on a lap to be able to finish this one. I'm checking to see who is looking like they'll be able to improve here. Justin Kirby is going to be our next one through here on screen. And that Ferrari is hovering just around his best time. So this is going to be nip and tuck on if you can go any higher than this 8th place. No, it's not going to be.
And I wondered if we were going to see a 159 out of anybody. You were right, Joe. Ted Lowendick on fire with a 159.8. Big slide out of this BMW as they come through Sunset Bend here. And just goes to show you the bumps. He says, you know what? Not even worth it. Going to come into pit lane.
That was Chris Wolfson who had to abandon that lap. This is Paul Gibson, but I see him to be on a bit of a slower lap. So unfortunately, it's kind of a moot point for him. But I believe he's going to be able to. He's going to be the last one to be able to set a time here. And yeah, that one was discounted. So there is our qualifying finished, and our order is ready for the sprint race here today. It is going to be Teddy Lowendick taking the pole with Paul Gibson starting in second. Nikhil Kopkar will begin in P3, and JP Alfonso starts from 4th. After that, Carter Kundinger will begin on the inside of row 3, Paul Slavonic to his outside, and then Andrew Lunsford starts in 7th, Justin Kirby next to him. Cameron Bidwell starts in 9th. Top 10 going to be rounded out by Martin Wallace here. Joey?
At 11th spot, we have Patrick McDaniel, followed up with Trent Brown. Matthew Gosh there in the 13th spot. Tim Saunders, 14th. Chris Wolfson in the top 15 there. Sean Fritz, 16th. Kyle Gretsch. Jack Roush Jr., our fearless leader there in the 18th spot. Trent McMillian, always one of our regulars here at the Roush Esports, in 19th. And Ryan Nash, part of that American Wheelman team with Jack Roush Jr. in the 20th spot.
Kyle Pitson starts 21st. Then it's Oliver Turin in at 22nd. Alexander Good is good enough for P23. Eliza Campos will start from 24th. Rolando Folgueras will begin in at 25th. And then it's Stephen Baker, 26th. Jim Johnson is the last one to set a time in 27th. And Drusco and Rivers will round out your 29-car field here. So this is about to kick off for a good 50 minutes total of racing. Well, 45 minutes total of racing, I should say. And this is going to be the first of 2 events. And as we said, Joey, it's going to be important to have a good finish in this one because it will affect the next race.
And it's going to be just a quick 15-minute sprint here. And going to be interesting to see how the competitors approach it. Now, I know that we've got a full pace lap here to try to get them warmed up, kind of take a deep breath out there, get calmed down. But I tell you what, you can never calm down sim racers no matter how hard you try. And it's just kind of in their blood to go out there and get after it.
Absolutely. And they're getting after some cool stuff here. We talked briefly about the prizes. Travis, Trevor, I'm going to bring you back in and talk to us a little bit about what they're trying to win here from VRS.
Yeah, no. And Joe, I might have to turn to you on that one as far as the prizes, but I do know VRS is going to be giving away a lot of our top prizes here. But Joe, as you said, the excitement for iRacing, I'll tell you one thing, every time I start a race, I can't keep my composure, my feet are shaking, so I couldn't even imagine what these guys are going through.
I still have that problem as well. Sorry, go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, and to talk about those prizes from VRS, we have a 1-month subscription being given away to the sprint race winner here. And then at the feature race winner, they will also get a 1-month subscription. And then you mentioned it, there's a cumulative points tally between the two races, and whoever wins that points tally will get a 3-month VRS subscription out there. So that's access to all of those setups, all the data and everything. It can really help improve your lap times out there on the track.
You can see they are already halfway through the lap, heading down into Cunningham, so we should be getting ready to go shortly. I do love the nice touch here that you guys have elected to use the older Mustang pace car out there, appropriate for Roush performance. And you can see the temperatures today. I understand this is pretty accurate to what they actually experienced in weather today for the real Sebring.
Yeah, these are barometer readings from actual Sebring today, so about 83 degrees when everything kicked off in terms of the session. Now it is setting in terms of the sun. I don't think it's going to pick up at all. I think we will continue to see the track fall down in temperature.
So we should be going shortly out there. I understand we've also got some cameras with Jack and Ryan Nash. Joey, you were making note of this earlier. What have we got?
Yeah, I know that Jack and Ryan are out there in support of that American Wheelman team that I mentioned. This is a real-life racing team that goes out and races IMSA, as well as some other racing series around the globe, and they've got some big plans here in the future, and it's cool to see them kind of bridging that gap, bringing the real world here to the sim world.
All right, just about ready to go. Will they be able to make it through turn one without some issues? Kind of notorious, this place, if the drivers want to be able to get to the finish. Of course, they do have that spare car, but they'll hope to survive that swift left-hander that narrows up on the exit, with drivers easily losing control. And despite how wide it is, it can cause some big pileups. As the drivers come around Sunset Bend, the pace car going to peel off, and Teddy Lowendick will be given control of the fields. There it goes, waiting patiently for that green flag. Is he going to go early? No, he's not. He's going to wait for it. Green flag is out. Not the best of jumps for Teddy, as Paul Gibson still around the outside, and he's also got a cop car looking for the lead. 3 wide down to the first corner. Nikhil has got the inside. He's going to go for the move. Can he get both of them? It looks like he might, but here comes another contender. It's Carter Kundinger, and he slams the door shut on him.
Impressive racing through turns 1, 2, and 3. Now is a little bit further in the back of the pack. It's 2 wide. I see Jack Roush Jr. with a little bit of contact in turn 1, but everybody's still going. As they come down to this winding straightaway for the first time, this is going to present another passing opportunity.
I think we had a little bit of a spin for Jim Johnson in the back. He's able to get it going. And looks like Kyle Pitson also may have had a few issues as they send it into the hairpin. Gibson still fighting tooth and nail with Carter Kundinger. It's going to be side by side as they head towards Cunningham, just behind them. Watch out for our pole sitter, Ted Lowendick. No doubt he wants to get those positions back, and in fact, he's going to send it up the inside of Kundinger.
Yeah, and it also looks like JP Alfonso is trying to get into the mix here as well. But you mentioned it, side by side for what is the third place between Carter and Teddy. And these two know each other quite well. They've been racing against each other for some years, not always in the same class, but very familiar.
Big slip up of the rear tires for Carter. He falls down to fourth. Lowendick back into third, but up at the front, Nikhil Kopkar with an aggressive but fair move into the first turn is leading the way. He has certainly got the bit between his teeth. Paul Gibson has not given up. He's still within about a second of him as we watch them now lead onto the longest straight of the track, onto the Ullman straight.
You see them all file out there pretty good and clean for the most part. I'm really impressed with how close this field is staying right now. I know that it's just a 15-minute sprint, so these drivers have got it turned up all the way.
Out and finishing the first lap. It's a long time to get around here, even in GT3 cars, which are not slow. It takes about 2 minutes to lap this place. So 15 minutes is not going to give them a whole bunch of time. It's going to be relatively few times around this circuit as we hop on board now with Teddy Lowendick. I'm trying to make out in the feed. Usually he has all kinds of different stuff up his sleeve with his webcam setup, and I'm trying to figure out what he's got going on this time.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems to be maybe unpacking in the background. Maybe that's the key there. But I know that Teddy's been doing a really good job and helping support all of the partners with his paint that he's got here. He was showing it off to me in the days prior. And you see the sunset already starting to come down, Joe, heading into that hairpin turn. It is right in the driver's eyes.
Jim Johnson in pit lane for some reason as well, so he must have had a serious issue. Oh, when we got a car off track, that looks to be Stephen Baker. I thought he was going to take a tow, but that seems to be a connection issue with his blinking. He's going to try and slowly trundle back onto the circuit. Hopefully it's good enough to drive back to pit lane.
Stephen Baker is actually a friend of mine out here in the Northwest and doing an okay job. He comes out to a lot of the Roush esports events, but you know what? It's just a sprint race. He can get it gathered back up and still got the whole feature to go.
Indeed. He's unfortunately going to be gridded up towards the back, though. And speaking of towards the back behind what we're looking at here, Paul Slavonic was side by side into Jean Debienne, and Alfonso had to give way. Oh, was somebody off to the side of the course there briefly? That was Gibson. He maybe got a slowdown penalty. Looks like he's served it now. He's back up to speed. But that definitely hurt. He was on the heels of Kundinger and now has fallen to about 1.5 seconds behind.
Yeah, he definitely got a slowdown. Just cut too much of the apex curb there. And iRacing says, no, you can't do that. And got that little bit of a time penalty and falls all the way down to that 4th position like you were saying.
Back to watching Alfonso. He's now got Bidwell close behind him. That's Andrew Lunsford as well in the bright yellow Ferrari. Oh, and another problem as going slow, Justin Kirby gets overtaken by Ghosh and McDaniel.
Bunch of PG-13 names in there, and honestly, a lot of cars that I recognize from a few different leagues that are competing here. Patrick McDaniel, Matt Ghosh, Justin Kirby, they're all regular competitors, and some of these other broadcasted series.
Looks like the 58 of Kirby just went a little wide off that first turn, clipped the grass, and had to check up to avoid spinning the car out. Probably a wise decision to at least still be in the hunt for that top 10 and that regrid. Right now, Matthew in the 222 is going to get the pole if he finishes where he is, but they're so tight together in this grouping. I would not count on it staying put.
It is packed nose to tail, or bumper to spoiler, I guess is how it is here in the GT3 cars, and one little slip up here at this Sebring track, and it doesn't even have to be from you. You could just take the curb a little bit wrong or run wide there on the tower turn, as we saw Matthew Ghosh run a little bit wide in that Porsche, have to give up that spot to Justin Kirby.
Kirby gets it right back after losing it not long ago. Martin Wallace kind of taking a big peek there down to Jean Debienne. That's a hard place to get the pass done. Thankfully, he decided to back out of it as the trio heads onto the Ullman Straight once again. But a good exit from Kirby, I think, is going to hold them at arm's length.
And Trevor, I know that you've been keeping an eye back there on Jack Roush Jr. It looks like he is actually our biggest mover right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I'm looking for my next big raise here, so I'm going to say nothing but good things. But I'll tell you one thing, Jack is actually up 5 spots, which, just as you mentioned, is the biggest move of the pack. So let's just let's grab another 5 spots there, Jack.
If he's looking for a raise, has no one told him about the commentator's curse, Joey?
Well, hopefully we'll just keep our fingers crossed right now. And actually, he's got Trent Brown behind him. And a little bit of a funny story because I had to avoid Matt Ghosh off there in turn 1. But Trent Brown is actually a former Roush employee. He's an engineer over there, although he doesn't work for Roush anymore. Maybe a little bit of bad blood between the two we can stir up.
Well, he's got a good exit coming off of turn 5. This is going to be a great opportunity for Brown. It's BMW versus Lambo, and the Bimmer's known for having good straight line speed. No, he's not going to go for the move. He gave him a little bit of a bump draft. Oh, but he gets into the back of him, shoves him off the course. Don't think that was intentional, but look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4 positions, 5, 6. So many are just streaming by.
Oh, Trent, what a dingus out there, and had to get into the back of Jack Roush Jr. And looks like we got another car off track here. Looks like that's Trent Brown actually doing the sportsman thing. I wonder if we're going to see Trent do that. I think he's just putting up his hand saying, hey, you know what, that was my bad. I'm going to slow down, give the spot back.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to be gentlemanly out there. He knew he kind of outran the corner and shoved him off. So doesn't make up for the loss of Jack Roush, but it will allow him to at least get into 19th. As we come down the back stretch, once again, our leader, Nikhil Kopkar, is not that far ahead of second place, but second place is no longer Carter Kundinger. Ted Lowendick has moved into that P2, and he seems to be fast approaching. Oh, and he's going to get underneath. He's going to look for it, but it's going to be a matter of who has the good exit.
Well, and the McLaren has the legs down the straightaway. You already see him pulling it out, but looks like Teddy Lowendick has that Audi really hooked up. You saw the front end really carve underneath turn 17, while our leader, Nikhil Kopkar, is really relying on that afterburner to keep him out front.
Ooh, and he backs off a little early. Carter Kundinger is going to try and attack. Can't quite make it stick. Now they've also found Paul Gibson approaching, and it's become a 4-car battle. So Nikhil made great moves at the start, but Joey, it doesn't feel like he's got the pace.
It can be tough out there holding it together for 15 minutes. You think it's a qualifying setup, but it's just more than a qualifying setup. And I think that McLaren is falling off that little bit, but interesting to note, I know that Teddy Lowendick has come up, but Paul Gibson has rejoined the party there in the 4th spot.
Absolutely, and this is all about 2 seconds ahead of Paul Slavonic, so they're not exactly running away, but they're at a safe distance from those behind right now. Little bit of a breakaway for sure. Seems like it's calming down now that they've had their little bit of fun on the start of the lap, but we're already halfway through, and we've got another problem with Jack Roush and the hairpin.
Yeah, he got turned around on that one. He got some help definitely from a Mercedes. They were just racing, and honestly, turn 7 down there can be a little bit of a funnel on the exit, and I just think too many cars into one space, and unfortunately the 61 paid the price.
Wonder if there's going to be an unfortunate employee training session after this race today as we watch him head down into the hairpin. Started to spin and just got sent the rest of the way around.
Yeah, it can be a tough deal, but I know that Jack will get back out there, and he knows that there's still the feature race to come up, so plenty more racing.
Yeah, he's down to 26th now, lost about 8 positions from the start as we come back to the battle for the lead once again. Lowendick versus Kopkar, with Kundinger watching on as they break down into turn 1. The McLaren seems to be the car to have here today. As you said earlier, 3 of them amongst the top 4.
Yeah, get out your burgers and hot dogs and hold them up to the back end of those McLarens, and by the end of the race, you'll have a nice meal on your hands here. But I tell you what, if I'm Teddy Lowendick, I'm looking for a move sooner than later, because if he doesn't make this move and he gets held up, like you said, he's got 2 very hungry McLarens, and I think even one of them has teeth.
That's right on the nose of Carter Kundinger. If we'll get a good camera angle here. Yeah, there we go. The rear wing's kind of blocking it, but yeah, he's got that airplane nose art style going on for the 0-2, coming down into the braking, just trying to stay menacing in Teddy's mirrors, at least for now. But will it start to get aggressive on the final lap of this race, which I don't think is going to be next time by. Don't think they're quite that close, but it is certainly getting here in a hurry. Now, the thing that surprises me is there's some relatively tall curbs here, and both the Audi and the McLaren were kind of known for being a little skittish over the curbs, so I'm kind of surprised that they're doing so well at this track.
And I think iRacing does a pretty good job with trying to keep all of these cars even, and That's actually one of the reasons why we chose to do the open setup, is I know that we're seeing McLarens out front here, but if you do the fixed GT3 setup, it can kind of leave a car out, or maybe 2 or 3 cars out to dry, depending on which racetrack you go to.
Whoa, somebody going backwards. I think that's Alfonso, and that's Lunsford in the yellow Ferrari. And the 6 is off the course there in the foreground. Not sure what caused this, but I'm going to take a wild stab that it's involved with one another. Oh, and we got to move for a second. Sorry to interrupt. It looks like Carter Cundinger's going to have another go. 3 wide for the lead once again for the second time this race into turn 1. And Nikhil Kopkar is not able to hold back Teddy Lowendick. He manages to sneak through, and Cundinger follows him. He wants one more as they dive into turn 3. Nikhil tries to get a little space down at the apex. He's given it by Cundinger, and it looks like Carter cannot get the top spot away from Teddy. He's back up to that spot.
Well, Carter has got to get on the move right now, because look at Lowendick in that Audi already gapping it out. And I see Kopkar not even challenging Carter in that second place right now. He realized that if any of these McLarens have a shot at the win, they have to work together.
And don't forget Gibson back there, too. He's showing quite a bit of patience. So, yes, we are going to get the white flag next time by. I can confirm we just dipped under 2 minutes now. And, ooh, there you go. Now we're starting to see a little bit of looks and peeks from the number 31, but no dice quite yet. I think he was indeed just kind of setting them up, waiting for his moment to pounce.
Well, and I think not only that, but we saw the Audi make speed very differently than the McLaren. So you have to make sure that you get the pass done at the right time, because if you don't, the McLaren will just drive right back on by you. And I think right now Ted Lowendick has this whole backside of the racetrack to gap away from these McLarens. But this right here is the strong suit that we're going to see Carter and the rest of the pack here start to close it in on the Audi.
Whoa, and in the background, that was Paul Slavonic. Oh, he was having a great race, and that's going to lose him at least 5th place. I'm not sure how much damage is on the car from that hit with the wall, but he's definitely going to see Kirby and McDaniel easily breeze by him.
He's got heavy front-end damage on the front of this BMW, and actually a shout-out to Paul, because Paul has been a big part of the Roush esports stuff. When we did all of our one-make series, he would actually design all of the paints that the competitors had the option to use. And despite that damage, he is staying in the gas.
Ooh, things going to be a little bit exciting here down into the first turn. McDaniel versus Slavonic versus Kirby, but Kirby comes out on top. So, we might lose another spot here to Paul as Patrick thinks about it down into turn 3 and then decides against it. It's been no contest with Lowendick up at the front since he made that pass. He's already 8/10 ahead.
Really impressive pace out of that Audi, and maybe you were right. Maybe he was just biding his time and trying to pick and wait to unleash that Audi.
Indeed, it's working out quite well, that is for sure. He has managed this race supremely well. Justin Kirby overtaking Paul Slavonic, or staying ahead of Paul Slavonic. McDaniel definitely overtaking on Slavonic as he manages to get side by side. Behind them, Martin Wallace kind of hovering around, hoping he can scoop up some scraps if this goes awry. Both of them side by side into Cunningham, not quite making contact, but also now blocking the road for poor Martin Wallace, and it is going to be Slavonic who retains that 7th position.
Really good job by Paul right now to hang on to the points where he can, and got a hungry Patrick McDaniel right behind him, like you're saying. Bob Wallace right behind him as well, and wonder if that BMW can hang on down the long straightaway.
That'll be a big question, but I think for our leader, Teddy Lowendick, he's trying to hang on by breaking the slipstream down the backstretch himself as he comes into the final turn. The number 72 did not lead the way at the end of the first lap. Looked like he had dropped a lot, but no, he was waiting and he sprung his trap, and now he's run away with it at the end. Teddy Lowendick is your winner here today. A pump of the fist in celebration. Cundinger, 5/10 behind him, certainly tried to hassle him as well as he could, and Kopkar will wind up on the podium. For Slavonic, he could not get back on Justin Kirby. He'll have to settle for 7th. Remember, he was running as high as 5th there before he slipped up as they rush to the line. Oh, Patrick McDaniel for some reason, is on the inside of the course. The 26 is
ran out of gas.
Home. Oh.
Yeah. Ran out of gas there and unfortunately misses that top 10 split, so we will have to start way back there in that 14th or 15th spot. But look at the racing that's still coming around turn 17.
Turan beats Fritz, and it looks like Andrusko just finishing behind them. Yeah, they are still very packed up. It's such a short race. Nobody's really been able to run away from one another all that much. And it looks like we'll see 26 cars finish on the lead lap. We lost Jim Johnson and sadly Jack Roush Jr., who had a disconnect problem partway through the race. Here's what happened with that incident that we missed. Oh, it was not related, actually. They both spun of their own accord, it looks like.
And I'll tell you that turn 16 out there leading onto that straightaway is very tricky. It looks flat. There's a slight crest and a little bit off camber, and it is a cruel, cruel corner.
Well, it wasn't cruel to Teddy today. He managed to take the win. Wonder if we're going to see a shoey at some point. Carter Kundinger will finish in second here, as Nikhil Kopkar will be in third, and Paul Gibson will finish in fourth. Cameron Bidwell was P5. Then it's Justin Kirby in sixth, Paul Slavonic seventh, and Martin Wallace in eighth. Tim Saunders will begin from P9, and then Matthew Ghosh finished in 10th today.
There in the 11th spot, we got Chris Wolfson, 12th, Andrew Lunsford, Kyle Gretsch, Patrick McDaniel, who you saw just kind of run out of gas there. Trent McMillian coming home in the top 15. Trent Brown there in the 16th spot after giving a shove to that 61 car in the sprint race. Ryan Nash, the American wheelman entry there in 17th. Oliver Turan, 18th. Sean Fritz and Trevor Andrusko, the late entry, all the way up inside the top 20.
Alexander Good was 21st, and Kyle Pitts in 22nd. Then it's JP Alfonso, P23, and Eliza Campos in the 24th position. Stephen Baker up one to finish 25th, and Rolando Filgueres was 26th, with the rest of the drivers DNF or DNS in the case of Bruce Rivers, Jack Roush Jr., and Jim Johnson having some issues during that one. Real quick, looks like we've got a chance to chat with Teddy Lowendick. It's been a while since we've been able to talk to him on the channel about a victory or a podium. So don't know if we'll be able to get some shenanigans or a shoey on here, but Teddy, congratulations on the win. You made it look like you were struggling at first.
I got jumped on the start. But apparently I took it too easy in the turn one. And those McLarens are quick in a straight line. That was crazy. But yeah, I had to work on him for like 5 laps, it felt like, in sunset, and finally got around him. Blocked like my life depended on it, and was able to hold on to it.
Yeah, it all worked out at the end. I mean, one thing that did surprise me, what is it about the Audi and the McLarens that seems to be working well here today? Because those are cars that used to be known as being really finicky over curbs.
Well, I know the McLaren's really good on like bumpy tracks. I don't know. I just like driving the Audi, so that's why I'm in it. The Audi's very loose on the first lap, so that's why I took a little easy into turn one. I just didn't want to be the guy that was leading the field into turn one and completely crash everyone. So we were successful in avoiding that. And this next race is going to be interesting because I think we reversed the top 10 based off how they finished. So I don't know how turn one's going to go this time.
Yeah, could be a little chaotic. Now, speaking of this next time, you've already won this one, which will get you a 1-month VRS subscription. So congratulations on that. You've got actually the chance to sweep it now, because you can win the second one, get another 1-month subscription, and then you can win in the points and get 3 months. You think you can do that?
That's a good goal to set. Let's try to do it.
All right, we'll look out for it. Congratulations.
Thank you. And if we do that, we'll do a shoey. All right.
All right. I like it. We'll hold you to it. That was Teddy Lowendick,
sounds good.
Winner of the sprint race. Real quick, I think we've got Oliver Turan ready to chat with us real briefly. Joey, I believe you've caught up with Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver, I know that you're new to the Roush esports events. What did you think about the first sprint out here at Sebring?
Boy, a lot of talent out here. Thanks for having me, though, guys. man, yeah, real clean racing that I saw. Anyways, back at the back of the pack here.
Well, I know that's one of the things that we always try to have here at the esports events is that no matter if you're racing at the front or a little bit further down or even in the mid pack, it's always some good racing. And looking into the feature, what did you learn real fast from the sprint? Because I know we're running out of time here.
That I am not a road course driver. I mostly do ovals here on iRacing, but I do love road course racing. I'm going to try and get into more of it, and a couple of guys from a league I'm going to try and get in are in here. So, yeah, having a good time, making some friends, and hopefully not finishing last is my goal.
Well, Oliver, it is a pleasure to meet you, and hopefully we get to see you for a post-race interview at the end of the feature here. Always love seeing you on the onboard cameras, and good luck out there.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
That was Oliver Turan, their driver of the 002. Joe, there's a couple 2 cars out there. I see the 02 of Carter Kundinger and then the 002 of Oliver.
Popular number today. Well, I believe we're going to have another quick chat with Trevor about how things have been going. So let's bring Trevor back in briefly. A pretty fun first race as we get ready for the second here. And I'd say so far we got a good thing going.
Absolutely. I think, unfortunately, the broadcaster curse is real. We saw that firsthand. So sorry, Jack. I absolutely apologize. I guess I will not be getting that raise. But no, it was really solid racing, and looks like a solid win there for that leader there.
Indeed. And real quick before we go back to the racing, since we've got some time, why don't we give a quick chat about some of our sponsors that are helping make this event real?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the first one being VRS would probably be a tool that would be in my toolbox, simply because I'm not the best iRacer, but I can tell you with the setups that I've seen them support other drivers in, those cars always end up in podium spots. So shout out to VRS for helping us out there. Continental Tire, these guys have always been an awesome supporter, not only of our esports, but brand partners. And truly, when I say Continental is a direct partner of Roush Performance, they have supported us in so many ways, and we're excited to continue that partnership. And as you guys know, they pretty much take all of our power and are able to apply it to the ground. So we're definitely happy with that. And last but not least, guys, RoushParts.com. Make sure you head over there. Whether you have F-150, Mustang, Bronco, Bronco is in full swing right now. And let me tell you guys, if you are looking for a performance pack, or even better, the Bronco R Series, definitely head over to RoushParts.com and find a dealer near you. So, yeah, exciting stuff over here.
Thanks for that, Trevor. We're excited to get to cover this one, as it looks like we're heading around on the pace lap and we're getting going. So why don't we go over our top 10 reverse real quick, in case you can't do that on your own in your head. Matthew Ghosh did indeed get the pole for this one for finishing 10th last time. Tim Saunders will start in second. Martin Wallace will begin in P3, and then Paul Slavonic, at least him falling backwards, sets him up a little higher up here. He'll start from P4. Justin Kirby 5th, and then Cameron Bidwell 6th. They have the least movement of that top 10. Paul Gibson will begin from 7th, and Nikhil Kopkar 8th, Carter Kundinger 9th, and Teddy Lowendick intent on trying to sweep this one, and says he'll give us a shoey. And if you don't watch the Global SimRacing Channel much, that won't be the first time he's done a shoey on air here. So we are well aware that he will legitimately do those if he says he will.
And then the rest of the grid here is just going to be the finishing order of how they finished in that sprint race there. And noticing here, it's actually a little bit past the golden hour. These cars are going to be racing into the sunset a little bit more and into that darkness, Joe. The temperature continues to fall. I know that we were taking a look at it earlier, and actually, no, I take that back. It does fall, but not as much as what I thought. It's only down to about 82 ambient, 84 on track, and so pretty similar conditions to what these drivers saw in that sprint race, but the big curveball, that top 10 grid invert.
We heard some discussion from Teddy there about some slight concern about what it's going to look like once they come back around for that one. because obviously there's going to be drivers who maybe lack a little bit of pace and not be as aggressive into that first turn. We already saw some of them definitely willing to make some moves to try and get some spots. So this is going to be a fun one, no doubt. Real quick, though, wanted to let you talk a little bit about American Wheelman here, one of those real-world teams that's involved in this, Joey.
Yeah, and Jack Roush Jr. is repping American Wheelman, as well as Ryan Nash out there as well. And American Wheelman is a team that races in IMSA as well as some series around the globe as well. And no, they're getting ready for some really big stuff here in 2023. I can't really say what, but just keep an eye out for that American Wheelman name, as well as partnered with Coliseum.
Oh, you're going to tease us like that. Okay, we'll have to stay tuned, so definitely follow them if you want to know what exactly they're going to be up to, because Joey's being cryptic out here, and we want to know. Looks like they are ready to go as Matthew waits for the green. Will he go earlier than what we saw for Lowen Dick? No, he does not. Green flag, but he's a little bit of a better jump compared to what we saw. Tim Saunders starts to fall back, and things are getting very checked up. We're looking at 4 wide coming down into the first turn. Still a bit of a battle for the lead as they swing into the left-hander, but it looks like the 222 is going to be able to hold on. Martin Wallace still trying to attack as he shoves his nose down the inside into turn 3. Behind them as well, a change between Slavonic and Saunders for third.
Yeah, looks like Jack Roush Jr. made it through a little bit of problems there going into turn 2, but Joe, you caught it 4 wide going into turn 1, and oh no, I see a bunch of PG-13 cars. I'm carting a handful of cars turned around in the 3, 4, 5 complex.
This started with Paul Gibson in the 31. We'll have to get a replay a little bit later, but he got tipped around. He was, I want to say, in 4th or 5th position in front of a lot of the field, and unfortunately with them so packed together, it was very difficult for them to try and make it around. They're actually lucky there was only about 4 or 5 involved on this one as they head down into the hairpin. Looks like they're going to be able to swing through there successfully. Excuse me, no, that was Cunningham that we're watching them work their way through and now down into Tower. So this is just in the mid-pack as I believe it's the fight for 8th position. Alfonso, Gretsch, and Turin.
Yeah, JP Alfonso back there in that Porsche. Like you mentioned, Turin back there in the top 10, kind of hanging on right now. He's actually up 8 positions from his starting spot. Joe, actually through the midfield, look at these big movers capitalizing on the problems that some of the front runners had.
Yeah, Alfonso up 16, just unbelievable as another car is off. That looks like Chris Wolfson. He's going to gather it back up, doesn't hit anything. He'll keep it going. In the meantime, looks like Slavonic overtook Martin Wallace for 2nd place. I think Slavonic's woes in the first race at the very end are actually proving to be quite the advantage for him because he looks fast today.
You bring up a good point because Paul was running there inside the top 5, had that mistake, and then fell back, which made him benefit from a better starting spot, and he's definitely working that track position right now up into the 2nd place as you see him get around Martin Wallace there in turn 1, set his sights on the leader, Matthew Gosh.
Wallace was trying hard to fight back, but couldn't retake the position. Tim Saunders just behind them as well. Slavonic now has to make up about a 1.5 seconds to catch Matthew Gosh in the 222. So as the lights continue to fade here and the headlights start to light up the track even more, we blast into turn 7 just past the hotel, and Slavonic not able to gain time that time through, but it's still a long race and we've got plenty of opportunities for this to change around. Now, I think things have calmed down enough that we can take a look at this replay. So let's give this a better look here.
It gets so narrow through this section, Joe, and oh yeah, it just looks like a couple of the McLarens get turned around, and when you bounce off of those apex curbs, it can really move the car around underneath you, especially on the cold tires.
Yeah, and yeah, this is going to be a better look at it from above. Just the littlest thing, and it cascades, and everybody has to take avoiding maneuvers. It looks like because so many of them went off early, that's why we had not as many as I would have expected wind up getting into trouble on that one. So that was good to see. Another driver that's gained a lot is Jim Johnson, by the way. I just looked over and noticed that he's up to 13th. He's up 15 positions, rather. And, Nikhil Kopkar getting a big piece of that, unfortunately. He's taken his spare car and got back out there, but that was a pretty big hit for him. So he's not looking at that great of a finish in this 30-minute race unless he has some incredible speed to run down a number of cars here. Oh, and what's going on there? Who was that we just saw?
I'm not sure who that was. Tim Saunders, it looks like, coming out of turn 17 and using up all of that extra runoff out there that iRacing recently added.
You're right. That was the 81 of Saunders. Just clipped the outside wall. And now that it no longer has the grass, maybe he didn't get the memo that you can't go all the way to the end of it and expect to keep going. As we got another one off. Boy, this is a lot messier than the sprint, which is not what I expected. I figured that the sprint would be the messy one.
It's funny how that works out, and I think it's a little bit to do with that top 10 grid invert, coupled with the problems that we saw here on the first lap. It's just everybody putting that visor down and charging forward.
So as they come around on the final turn, there's the replay. Yeah, just clips it. Thankfully, nobody runs into him because that could have been a bad spot where drivers are accelerating out of that very fast turn, and just points it forward and gets going. Also looks like the one of the favorites of Roush is, there's another spin out of turn 1 that we saw the end of a little bit earlier. The lone Ford in the field, the Ford GT3 of Cameron Bidwell, inside the top 5.
Yeah, he's actually putting the pressure on Bob Wallace right here in the Lamborghini, but he's got to be careful. Teddy Lowendick, that sprint race winner, all up behind this Ford GT. And I know that the Ford isn't the most updated car here in iRacing, but Cameron El Tigre, the Bidwell Tiger out here, is making it work and trying to get on that podium spot.
I like that nickname. There's a little look to the inside, tries to shake him off, but looks like Wallace is having none of it as they come off the corner. Teddy, who has managed to make his way up to 5th since the beginning of this race, is now starting to threaten on the number 56. They head towards turn 1, but covering off the inside, unless he can get the over-under. He's not far enough along Bidwell. Let's see if he gets the exit. Oh, that's a pretty good run.
Yeah, and here he is side by side here. Doesn't look like he's quite far enough to make the move into the brake zone. And this is another one of those tough situations for Ted because that Ford is a rocket ship on the straightaway. And here's Bob Wallace having a fun time in that Lamborghini. You see how much he's glancing up at that mirror, though. He knows he's got a couple fast cars behind him.
I appreciate his decoration there in the background with, I think, Domo-kun, is that his name, the little brown character? I can't remember exactly, but definitely was popular for some time. As they come out of the hairpin once again, Wallace just keeping them at bay. And Bidwell not going to be able to get him this time. In fact, he's got to keep watching Teddy Lowendick because he is awful close to being able to do something.
Well, and you know what? We've been so infatuated with this battle back here. Paul Slavonic has actually got around Matthew Gosh. We've got a new leader out there in a BMW.
Ah, interesting. So Paul Slavonic sneaking by. I'm trying to see how recently this was that he made that overtake. But, yeah, this was, this was back into Sunset Bend within this last lap. So about a lap ago.
Cam Bidwell just spun around. It doesn't look like he had any help from Teddy Lowendick. Just spun by himself in that Ford.
He was looking at a good finish there if he could just hold it together. But that's going to set him back to P6. Teddy's now up into 4th. Could he actually do the double here? Oh, and we got a couple cars off. Where is this?
Our turn, it looks like, down there. I believe that was maybe Carter Kundinger. I recognized the teeth.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. And I think you're right. Oh, he was super damn. Whoa!
Oh.
Monster hit into the tires. That was some extra contact. He came together a second time, unfortunately, with Falgueras. And that sent both of them just careening out into the barriers.
Yeah, not sure exactly what happened out there. I know that Rolly Filgaris is actually one of our real-world buddies. He's done a lot of racing with Roush out there in the IMSA series back throughout the 90s, and some really cool cars, Joe. Those old Mustangs, if you remember, in the IMSA era.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those were some cool-looking cars back in that era. So that is, I'm very, very jealous. Hopefully we'll maybe get a chance to talk to him at some point here, but we now watch them accelerate through Fangio with Wallace leading Lowen Dick. Teddy's still trying to see if he can get back onto the podium at least, and he's making this quite a nervous proposition for the 11.
Well, I tell you what, he's got to get a move on. I know that Slavonic's not too far up the road, but we're already a third of the way through this race, and if he hangs out behind Bob Wallace too long, it's going to be halfway done before you know it.
Absolutely. And he's just kind of showing his nose in places. Bob's covering him off down into Jean Damiens to play it safe. So what about onto the long Ullman straight here? This is where he needs that Audi to try and outgun the Lambo, which ironically is practically an Audi these days. And it does look like a pretty good exit for Teddy. The 72 approaching, looking down to the inside, going to try and send it, or is he going to back out? He's going to send it. He manages to get a nose ahead. Bob is going to try and cut back underneath, but doesn't look like it's there. Oh, a big bobble coming off the corner for Lowen Dick, but he manages it well. That's going to move him into third.
Well, and that's actually the same move that we've seen Ted pull a numerous amount of times so far. It just seems like the Audi has got the front end really hooked up, and you see it through turn one as well. The Lamborghini makes the lunge on entry, but Ted just has the front end carving on that Audi.
Now, here's the bad news if you're a fan of the 222, which we do have an onboard cam with him. Even though he was racing by himself and Lowen Dick was battling side by side, Teddy was still faster than Matthew that lap. So he's only got 2 seconds to make up. There is Matthew there in the yellow Porsche, and we're going to check in with him. Oh, he goes very deep down to the hairpin right there. More mistakes like that, and he is going to be caught extremely quickly.
Yeah, and actually big shout out to Matt Gosh here, because one of these PG-13 team members, and I know that they've got a big entry list here on this esports event, and Matthew does all of the paints for that PG-13 team and actually having a really good run in the second place, and we'll see if he can hang on to it. Got another 18 minutes to go, lots of laps.
Yep, still plenty of the race left. He's trying his best to pick up the pace a little bit, but he's already down to 1.1 seconds ahead of Teddy, who is just picking him up and putting him down. They come through Jean Damiens once again. And is this actually our leader that we see? Yes, that's the BMW of Slavonic. Now, this is going to be interesting. They're actually coming upon lap traffic. That could throw a spanner in the works.
I was noticing that too. I think these are some of the cars that had some problems early on and then came down into pit road, took their fast repair, and are back out there racing. Looks like it's Alexander Good as well as Sean Fritz that are the two cars right in front of our leader, and hopefully they don't give him too much of a problem.
He's approaching pretty quickly. This is a battle for position. And they're on the lead lap, but yeah, they're good heads up by Good, and he's going to pull out of the way. So there's one, and Sean Fritz is next. Let's see how quickly he manages to approach on the Merc.
And I know I sound a little bit like a broken record, but I actually want to go look at Jack Jr. because he's got Jim Johnson lined up down the front straightaway right now. He's taking a look down into turn one. He's going to make this move on his buddy. These two are very good friends in real life and fierce competitors on the racetrack. Jim, former team owner in the Grand Am Series. If you've heard of Rebel Rock Racing, well, Jim founded Rebel Rock Entertainment, Rebel Rock Racing, and has since sold the team, but is still active out there in the IMSA series. Was just racing an Aston Martin at Daytona.
Not many racing drivers you hear about that have a Grammy to their name, that's for sure. And Jim Johnson also racing a bit of a home track here. He's from Florida, from what I understand.
Yeah, he's hopped around a little bit, but he does kind of base himself there in Florida. He's got a lot of music roots down there in the Southeast and Had a little bit of problems in the sprint race, but good to see him up. You mentioned it, up 15 spots right now. Both him and Jack Roush Jr. up 15 positions from where they started today.
If you're wondering why that Audi is in front of the Porsche, Teddy Lowendick just made the pass for second place as they are approaching the lap traffic. So another little complication. He manages it well, although it's a slightly better exit here for Gosh. Could he try and fight back if he wants that P2, or is he going to settle for just a podium? Because he also has to worry about Martin Wallace. Bob is still back there and could try and take him off the podium. He tries a move, but then backs out of it.
Yeah, he definitely looked at it down there into turn 17 and realized he wasn't quite close enough. I also think that Gosh realized that Ted's got a really fast car, and you see Lowendick just kind of glance in the mirror as he goes down the straightaway, realizes no pressure from behind.
So, okay, 3.2 seconds up to Paul Slavonic. Can Ted catch him in about half the race time? Oh, we've got a problem. Oh, no! Into the back of him. That was Gosh losing control down into turn 3. I think Teddy may have gotten away with it, but took a glancing blow on the rear spoiler.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what happened here. Oh, that's what happened. If we get a replay, Matt Gosh dipped 2 tires out on the right side of the braking zone, and it hooked him driver's left. This was totally unintentional.
It is getting darker, so I wonder if maybe just not as used to racing here in the nights. Is that something that you find in real life, that that as it gets darker, it's a little easier to go that little bit wide in those braking zones?
It introduces a variable, Joe, and anytime you introduce variables into racing here, you have to deal with them, and some people deal with them and excel, and some people struggle with them, but it's just another thing you have to deal with on the racetrack.
So looks like he's able to get it going, which is kind of impressive. He's still in 6th place. That was a big hit into the wall. Just flew down into the tires, but I guess these cars, when they're more recently beefed up bodies, the GT3 cars, that he's been able to get away with it fairly well. But we check in now on the battle for 11th position. Pitson versus Johnson, and Roush is going to get Johnson just now.
Yeah, Jack. Well, it's kind of the battle between Jack and Jim. They've been swapping it back and forth here, and pretty impressive that these two are so similar in pace, even in the sim.
Down onto the Ullman straight. There's also Lunsford in the yellow Ferrari. Slip up for Jim Johnson. He's going to have to give that spot up. Trent Brown might actually get the spot as well. He's coming up in that red BMW. Will he be able to make the overtake here down into Sunset Bend? He wants to give it a thought, but then not a second one. He lifts before they get to the braking.
And these headlights definitely becoming more and more crucial here. We're past the halfway mark, and look at the sky. It has gone past the golden hour. Still got a little bit of daylight left, but oh no, is this Matt Gosh with more problems?
It looks to be, and this is coming into turn 3, so it must have happened in turn 1, maybe, I think.
I think he's just hanging on to the car right now. He's had those couple big hits, and judging by how the cars are catching him behind him, I think it's definitely damaged, and yeah, he's pulling out of the way.
Yeah, see, he had another hit with the wall. Car got loose through turn 1, and he just kind of slapped the other side. I wonder if he did damage the suspension a bit, because turn 1 puts a heavy load on that right-hand side that he hit in the initial incident.
Well, and I was going to say, I'm really surprised that Teddy Lowendick doesn't have any damage on the back of that Audi. It has unaffected his pace, and yeah, just both of the cars kind of seem to walk away from it.
So Slavonic, by the way, has been caught by about a second. Lowendick's down to 2.1. Last lap was a 2:01.7 for Paul. Teddy, a 2:01.5. And looks like there's another problem for Jack Roush Jr. He looks to have had a spin, trying to track this one down here. Thankfully, was not the hairpin this time.
Yeah, it happened coming out of turn 5, which it's one of these really technical corners, and he actually doesn't even spin it all the way. He just gets really loose on exit. Car darts drivers left and just loses a bunch of track position.
Yeah, so he was in that big pack. He could have been picking off more positions, but that slips through his fingers, unfortunately. So he carries on with the Lambo since it still doesn't have any damage, but just going to have to try and collect himself back up. Lunsford in that yellow Ferrari chasing Pitson now for 11th. Top 10 doesn't mean anything. This one, oh, spinning car in front of them. That's Matthew again. I fear he might need to take that thing into pit lane.
I agree with you there. Just don't come too far out on the racing line. He does a good job to try to keep it narrow out of everybody's way. And yes, he enters pit road.
All right, Lunsford down into turn 1, overtakes Kyle Pitson, and he now gets into the top 10. And no, excuse me, I think he was ahead of Pitson there. He got that spot from Gosh, I believe, who went into pit lane. So this is still a close fight. Pitson back in 11th, Trent Brown in 12th. Johnson, who has been overtaken by a couple of them, just kind of clinging to the rear, but he needs to make up a few car lengths.
Yeah, and I know I've talked about Jim a few times, but really impressed with what he's been able to do. And this is Trent Brown on the screen. And Trent was the one who got into the 61 earlier in that sprint race, and looks like he's made his way back up here in the feature. And much cleaner racing out of this number 7 here.
Pitson under threat, but Trent doesn't try and make the move down into Cunningham this time. He's much tidier down to the apex of the right-hander. Final 10 minutes of this race, so just a third of it left to go here. As it sits, Slavonic still holds the lead and is looking to potentially win the other 1-month subscription from VRS, but then Teddy Lowendick with a first and a second. I got to imagine that he'll probably get the overall winner, no doubt, because I don't think anybody's going to be able to outscore him on that one. But he's still closing it. It's down to 1.7 seconds. There you can see them on the same shot now.
Yeah, slowly but surely closing it in. And you mentioned it, under 10 minutes, and I've actually been really impressed with the pace that Paul Slavonic has been able to run out front. Now, he's been out there with clean air. He hasn't really had to watch his mirrors too much. And with the Audi now approaching, Joe, we're going to see a little bit of a different driving style, because he's going to see him on the relative. He's going to see him in the mirror. Do you ignore him, or do you glance up and get thrown off?
Well, I hope he has the wherewithal to ignore him at this point and just hunker down on that one. I think Jack Roush just had another spin, unfortunately. I see him slow on the track. We'll try and check on that in a bit. We also have the 412 of Chris Wolfson up 4 positions today. Not too bad for him, as he goes actually by a wrecked car in the background. Not sure who that was exactly. Wolfson is, I believe, one of our onboards. Who are we looking at here?
Looks like it. Well, and
that's
Trent Brown
and Good.
Yeah, with Trent Brown and Kyle Pitson going side by side down into the hairpin right now. Looks like Trent Brown's going to be on the inside of the racetrack, claim that 11th place position for good.
You say for good, but I don't know. These two have been battling for a bit, and I'm sure Pitson is going to keep going at it. Oh, was Johnson crabbing there? He was in the grass for certain. Jim had something go wrong down at the hairpin. That has been calamity corner for a number of drivers tonight, and looks like he is its latest victim.
Well, and it is getting darker and darker. Joe, you mentioned it. The visual cues are starting to change now, and I think by the time we get the checkered flag, it's officially going to be nighttime, and these drivers are going to have to deal with that.
They certainly are. Bob Wallace, who is currently got JP Alfonso just behind him. Alfonso hailing from Georgia, Wallace from the Plains region, and he's going to go defensive down into turn 1. Deep braking from JP, but doesn't look like he's able to make the move stick. Still, he's definitely doing something to Wallace here, because Wallace is now defending 2 corners in a row.
Yeah, taking the middle of the racetrack in that Lamborghini, and here you see the Porsche just trying to stay down the inside lines, focus on those exits, but looks like Wallace gets a pretty good run out of turn 5, keeps JP at an arm's length distance.
Yeah, in fact, that was a pretty good exit, and Bob's going to be out of range by the time they get down into the hairpin this time. This is all dropped off of Teddy Lowendick by multiple seconds. Bob, who was racing him earlier, is now by about 6 seconds trailing Teddy. So it's looking like it's at best a battle for third here at the end of this race, unless one of the top two has something catastrophic happen to them. But you just never know. There you can see them now as they exit out of tower into Bishop, and it's down to 0.3 of a second. Slavonics going to have to survive, I believe, about 3 or 4 laps. In fact, it's going to be extremely close. No, it'll be 3 laps here. 3 laps that Paul has got to try and hold off Teddy.
And he just had a big wiggle coming out of turn 16. This is going to be the opportunity for Ted Lowendick. He's already side by side, and we've seen how good this Audi is through turn 17. Paul Slavonic, does he go really late on the brakes? He does, way deep out there in turn 17. Can he hang on to it through the marbles? He's way wide, and look at this. Here comes Lowendick side by side down the front straightaway again.
The give and take fast into the corner, but he's slow out of it. Teddy's on the wrong side. He's going to try and come around the outside as Paul Slavonic once again breaks steep defending down into turn 1. Teddy can't do it. Paul is not going to give this up without a fight. That is for sure. But does Teddy want it more than he does?
I thought for sure going down that back straightaway that Lowendick was going to be able to capitalize going into turn 17, but you're right, Slavonic just fights back hard on the brakes. And one other thing we got to keep an eye on, looks like they got a lapped car in front of him. That's Oliver Turan. That's the lone car that's in front of our leaders.
Turan about to be lapped from 21st position. Is this maybe what Ted is looking for? Is he hoping for some sort of distraction to try and get by him? He's hovering very close, dangerously close. In fact, he's going to take a bit of a look. His headlights are in the mirror of Slavonic, but Slavonic shuts the door.
Now, Trevor, I want to bring you in real fast because you know these names as well between Slavonic and Lowendick. Pull out your crystal ball right now with 4.5 minutes left. Who's your favorite?
Oh man, don't ask me favorite here. Both of these guys, as you know, have been a part of the esports world for a long time now with the Roush team. I'm a huge fan of both of them, but I do think Paul, I've always pulled for Paul. He's always, I wouldn't say he's the underdog, but he always runs strong, so I'm going to say Paul's going to hold on to that position.
I'm supposed to be impartial, and honestly, in this case, I do feel that way because I've both done voice work for Paul in his book, and I've also had a lot of fun times with Teddy with his webcams over the years. So hard to tell who you'd want to cheer for more as they come around with now 2 laps to go, and the battle is getting fierce. So Alfonso and Wallace have traded positions a couple of times, but for now, JP is on the podium.
Yeah, looks like he's got that Porsche in front of the Lamborghini now, and see if he can run away from Bob Wallace now that he's got a little bit of distance between himself and that what is 4th place car.
So I'm sure Bob doesn't want to fall off of the podium steps here at the dying stages of this one and see Alfonso run away. Surely he is going to try and fight back on him as they exit out of turn 5 and into Big Bend once again. Still hovering at about half a second between them. That's going to be too far away for a lunge down into the hairpin. But after this, he'll have one more lap. Will he maybe set him up for then?
I love the concentration as he goes into the corners. You see, he's probably running the stream right now, talking to people during the race. And as soon as it comes up to one of these braking zones, he gets real focused.
Laughing and having a good time. At least he's enjoying himself, but it's got to be tense here at the very end. And as much as I want to watch this, we have to keep an eye here on the lead because Slavonic and Lowendick are back down to 0.2 of a second. And, I thought we were side by side for a second, but a trick of the camera. They're so close. And nothing from Teddy down into Jean Debienne, but maybe on the Omen last time, or at least one of the laps before, he did manage to get side by side, and this car is fast.
Well, and Teddy was able to capitalize on a mistake from Slavonic, but look at him, he's all the way tucked into the slipstream now. He hasn't been showing really late on the brakes. He shows a lot of moves and pokes his nose in there, but has really been waiting for Slavonic to make that mistake to capitalize. And here we see once again the strength on that Audi through turn 17, really able to carve the front end and even closer to our leader.
Hasn't made the move yet. White flag is out. Last time around, he's going to go around the outside, but the grip isn't quite there. Down into turn 1. Tries to cut back underneath. Can't get the exit. Slavonic still holding him off, desperately trying to keep Teddy from sweeping both the wins.
Let's see the run that these guys get out of turn 5. It's so crucial to get the power down on this exit, and both of them very clean out of turn 5. I don't think Teddy's going to be close enough to make a move down into the hairpin, but these racers always surprise me. Here he is kind of poking his nose one more time, trying to get Slavonic off of his rhythm.
And looks like that battle for third has come apart. For some reason, JP Alfonso is in pit lane. We'll try and check out that in a bit to track down what happened. Battle for the lead on the last lap of the race here for the Sunset at Sebring. And Lowendick's going for it down into Cunningham. He gets chopped off down into the apex.
The door was shut promptly on Ted Lowendick right there, and thankfully he was able to back out of it. And judging by this racetrack, Joe, I think it's going to have to come down to turn 17, the most iconic turn here at Sebring.
This has got to be nerve-wracking for that 528. Is there going to be another look into Jean-Ebien? Just a peek, but back into a straight line. Teddy maybe focusing himself to try and set up the run out of Le Mans. Can he get the exit? Slavonic just a little bit off the apex. Is Ted close enough?
I think Slavonic's got to go defensive here. As you see him already go to the inside of the racetrack, he's snaking down the straightaway, trying to break the draft. Does Teddy Lowendick go deep on the brakes into 17? No, he stays single file. This is Slavonic's race to lose.
Tries to cut back. Could he get the exit? It's a drag race to the line. Slavonic's a little bit slow, but no, it looks like he's got it. And by the skin of his teeth, Paul Slavonic will win the feature race tonight.
What a race out of both of these regular Roush esports competitors. I am so happy for this 528 of Paul Slavonic finally taking home another checkered flag here at a Roush event.
What a finish there, and Paul made good on that slightly better starting position for sure. Trevor Andrusko trying to chase down Lunsford for the 7th position, but Trevor's already made up 12 spots, so this is going to be a good run for him here out of Sunset Bend, and yeah, he's not going to be close enough, unfortunately, at this stage. Behind them, looks like Trent Brown can't catch Gretsch. And then it's a fight. Did Alonso wind up 11th? It looks like he did. Still not sure why he had to come into pit lane. And Jim Johnson's in a close fight for 16th back there as well.
Yeah, Jim's right on the back of Trent McMillian. And Trevor, bring you in one more time. You know these names quite well as well. Trent is one of our regulars as well as Jim.
Yeah, you know, I was watching the final lap there, and I was thinking if the roles were reversed. Let me just tell you, Paul Slavonic, he's a driver, and I think he would have put his nose in there. I obviously with Ted, I know he ran a good race, but I do think if the roles were swapped there, it might have been a little bit different of an ending, maybe a little bit more exciting. But what a solid race.
That was plenty exciting for me. Oh, Jim Johnson into the wall. He sends it a little too deep. Paul Gibson's going to pick up the spot because of that. Paul involved in that opening incident, unfortunately, but did gather himself up to at least finish in 17th. And I believe that's going to take us to a quick break here, as we will come back very shortly with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect. How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going? Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they got into the top and the spider's in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me.
Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Welcome back to Sebring. After our feature race for the sunset at Sebring, Paul Slavonic took the win. It was 0.136 of a second at the line. Ted Lowendick, who won the sprint race, fought his way from 10th, just about managed to sneak both wins in, but it was not meant to be. Bob Wallace finished P3 with Cameron Bidwell in 4th, and Tim Saunders, who was regrid in 2nd, actually held up pretty well. He finished P5, and Chris Wolfson wound up in 6th today. Andrew Lunsford was 7th, followed by Trevor Andrusko in 8th, a gain of 12 spots for him. Kyle Gretsch 9th, and Trent Brown rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, they're in 11th spot, JP Alfonso. 12th, Patrick McDaniel. Justin Kirby coming home 13th. Ryan Nash in that American Wheelman entry 14th. Peachy Campos there in the 15th spot. Trent McMillian. Paul Gibson. Kyle Pitson. Jim Johnson, who we are covering quite a bit, comes home 19th. And Sean Fritz there in the 20th spot.
21st was Oliver Turin and Stephen Baker in 22nd. And it was Jack Roush Jr. a lap down, sadly, 23rd. Not a good day for the boss, but he stuck it out. Alexander Good, 24th. From there, it was sadly a bunch of DNFs for Gosh, Falgueras, Kundinger, Kopkar, and then Bruce Rivers was a DNS. Looks like we've got our winner from the feature, Paul Slavonic, ready to talk to us. And looks like, Paul, that had to have been a nerve-wracking race. You started in a better position because you had a bad last couple laps in the sprint, and it worked to your advantage. But, boy, did you have to work for that win.
Yeah, that was crazy. Ted, I saw him coming for a while now, and I just knew that right with the timing, because I felt like things were starting to kind of fall off towards the end for me, and I saw he was really picking up some steam. It was going to be a battle. I knew that. So Ted, he really races respectfully. So it was a really intense battle, but still it was clean, and I really appreciate that because he had every opportunity to send me on multiple occasions. But yeah, that was a good, clean fight.
Well, I was going to say there was a couple times where you chopped down, and it was all fair, but I was impressed that you had that trust. Did you feel that confident that he wasn't going to manage to tip you when you came down to the apex on those corners?
Nope. That was just me being a leader in this race and not wanting to give it up. Because I knew as soon as I give him an inch on the inside, if he gets a bumper on me, then it's pretty much over. So, that move was a bit aggressive, but he didn't return the bumper to me, which was good. But we raced clean. I'm just glad there wasn't any contact or anything like that. But yeah, that was crazy. That was a really probably one of the best GT3 races I've had in a long time.
It was thrilling to watch, and I have to ask, do you have any plans over the next month with that VRS subscription to try and find a little pace and make it harder for him next time?
I've got no excuses now. I'm going to have to. So sorry, a really cool event put on by Roush. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to come race in the series again. As they always put on a good show. It's nice, clean, organized with a lot of great racers. So a lot big thanks to Roush for putting this on.
Well, thank you for coming and talking to us. Excellent win, sir, and hopefully we get to talk to you some more later.
Thank you, guys.
Paul Slavonic, your winner in the feature tonight. Second place was Teddy Lowendick, who we already did get to talk to, but we'll let Joey do the honors this time.
Teddy, congratulations on taking home another podium, but this time in the feature. And Looking at everybody from this points, this makes you that points champion as well, taking home the 1-month subscription plus the 3-month subscription from VRS.
It's awesome, you guys. Huge thank you to Roush for putting on this league. I saw you guys are going to Sebring. I was like, I really like that track, and so I signed up for it. Didn't know what to expect, but going home with the overall points win is it's actually really amazing. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to you guys again.
Yeah, and I know that it was a little bit of a difficult race here for you in the feature. The sprint, you started from pole. I know that you had to pass a couple cars, but this was a totally different race for you. You really had to work your way up there.
Yeah, I called the shenaniganry that was going to happen on lap 1, and it kind of took out everybody I was battling with in the first race. And then from there, it was just keep running laps, don't make mistakes. I really wanted to race Paul clean there at the end. I didn't want to like hit him and it be that kind of win for me. So it was fun. I was glad we both kept giving each other enough space there. I thought he might run into the wall on the exit of Sunset. And I was really worried, so I kind of lifted. But I don't think it mattered. I think he had enough drive. That BMW was quick today.
Well, and I know that you're one of the cleanest racers out there. I wasn't going to expect anything, and it was actually pretty fun to watch you and Slavonic battle it out, because I know that you guys go pretty far back in terms of racing, but you guys were also some of the original Roush Esports miniseries competitors.
Yeah, and I think that's that kind of, we had some trust because we knew how each other raced from back then, and we knew we'd give each other a little bit of room. I just didn't want to send it on him because I mean he was leading the whole race and there's no reason to take someone out. So that was good. Sounded like there was some craziness going on behind us, just from the radio chatter. But yeah, it was a good time. And congrats to Paul for getting the win. He made me work. That was fun.
Well, awesome, Teddy. And before I let you go, I know that you didn't win this race. Does that still qualify for a shoey, or did you have to win it?
Well, since you asked, I do have a bottle of champagne here. I am very thirsty after that, so let's go.
Well, and you got the VRS boxes in the background too, Ted. So this is like a match made in heaven right now.
Cheers, boys.
There's the shoey. It's either the third or the fourth we've had on the channel from Ted.
It tastes great every time, guys, I tell you.
Well, now that you have that taste in your mouth, is there anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, huge shout out to Roush. These things are always fun when you guys do them, except the ones on dirt. I'm terrible at dirt, so I'm just not going to sign up for those. But other than that, GSRC, it's been a long time. It's good to see you guys again. Just thanks again to everybody at Roush, all your sponsors. I don't have my car pulled up, but I know VRS, Haggerty, Castrol, and I'm sure I'm missing one out there. But yeah, thanks again, guys. This was a lot of fun.
That was Teddy Lowendick, driver of the number 72, your points championship winner here at the Sunset at Sebring, and good job on the shoey.
And that's going to take us to a special interview. We've got Jack Roush Jr. ready to talk to us. And it sadly didn't go all that well for him out on the track this evening. But for the event, I'd say it went fantastically as we get ready to chat with Jack. And Jack, sad that we didn't get to see you higher up in the finishing order, but you guys put on just an incredible show tonight.
Oh yeah, it was a blast. I had terrible luck in that first race. I got taken out twice, and then the ice storm took me out again. We lost power for a little bit. I think we're still running on a generator. But yeah, the second race was going good at the beginning, and unfortunately, I did not test during the nighttime, and the setup just really went south once the light left. But it was an awesome race. I love racing with those guys. Those are a lot of my good friends out there. And yeah, thanks for putting it on, guys.
Oh, well, thanks for bringing us on to help cover it, because this was a lot of fun. I was told that you're still kind of dipping your toes into the sim racing. How does it compare for you to being in the real car?
It's a lot of fun. It's seat time is always critical for racing. It's not completely the same, but it's still really good practice. It's good discipline, and you get to have to adapt to different situations, work on your racecraft, and all that sort of thing. So I think it's invaluable, honestly.
We also were told that this sim rig is also kind of shared property right now. I hear that your son is trying to use it to get a little bit better than you.
He's working on it. Yeah, we'll see. I better keep on my toes.
Well, and I'm going to jump in here, Jack. I know that you've been all hot to trot on this new go-kart of yours. How is JP's season doing, and when's the next time you guys are hitting the track?
Well, we're off season right now for the racing that we do, like our main racing season. But what we do in the winter is some indoor karting, and I think we may actually do that this weekend. So, yeah, we have a lot of fun with that.
Well, again, we can't thank you enough. We had an awesome time up here, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more in the future, Jack.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Great job today.
Jack Roush Jr., who unfortunately finished 27th and 23rd, but certainly gave us some good smiles helping to put this show on this evening. Looks like we are going to wrap, but before we do, again, a big thank you to all the sponsors of this series, which a big one, huge thanks to VRS for providing the prizes for this, as well as Continental Tire, the smart choice in tires, and Haggerty Motorsport Reg, along with none other than Roush Performance. If you're looking to add performance to your Mustang, F-150, Bronco, Ranger, Raptor, or Super Duty, head over to RoushParts.com. And a big thanks to the team today, Zach, Joey, Travis, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media website and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.